Exclusions. We rarely think about exclusions, but with Excel, you can incorporate the versatility here. Sum all products by name, excluding do not include. Do not include. Here's our variable. Here's our outcome. This is what we're looking at. What makes this work? We're going to use what's called the ISNA value combined with some product and match. Brad Williams, Excel primed, some products, and a few little twists here. What are the twists? Well, one, we are using some product with ISNA. That means not applicable or not available. We're also going to use the match, all right? The sum product function is a versatile function in Microsoft Excel that allows you to multiply corresponding values in a list and then sum the products. Here is the example of sum product array 1, array 1. So here we have our sum product. There's our array. We have a single array. Fine. What are we going to do? Here's the tricky part. We're looking at this going, well, 8. And then we have farm. And we're so used to looking at numbers, we're saying, well, I don't see 8 here. We're not counting 8. We're counting produce, the name, not farm. Produce by name. So keep that in mind, excluding anything in the do not include. So how do we set this up? Somebody hands this off to you without all these notes. What are you going to do? We can't include radish, plums, or rhubarb. So what's a good tool in order to set those to the side? Can we count these? Well, yeah, but how are we going to exclude them? Can we sum them? We're going to sum them, but not in favorable means. How about match? What does match do? It searches for a value in a list and returns its position. That kind of sounds like a good starting point. What does match do? Well, you have a lookup value, and you have a lookup array, and you have a match type. Well, we've done this before. We've looked this up in index match. If we were looking for radish, we could say match radish. Give me radish, if there's one in here, and then 5. We're not doing that. Just think of this as an index match kind of deal. All the produce here was listed next to it. Just go with me on this one. And then we'd use index match, and we'd find whatever radish or whatever row that is, okay? So aren't we doing the exact same thing here? In this list, aren't we just looking for a number here? Or in this case, a produce? Well, yeah, here we go. We have our lookup. Our lookup array is going to be, here's our name ranges, which is B5 to B15. What's our lookup array? Well, it's going to be do not include. That's it. We have our match. How do we separate these two? We have this other tool, ISNA. Test if a cell is not applicable. We're stating in produce, we're explicitly saying we want this lookup array to not apply, and we want an exact match. That's it. It's just incorporating all the tools. Recently, I was reviewing all the various tools within Excel, and these are your go-tos. And I counted 230 different tools available. I know there's about 450. Really, can you remember all this stuff? That's where you're going to need help. So don't be shy when you're stumped to talk to your colleagues, because they're going to remember stuff that by all means you're not going to remember, or you just don't know. Okay, ISNA. How often are you ever going to use this? Or other folks you work with, or other students, or your resources? Well, not often, but it serves a purpose. It's just a simple format. You have the double unaries. We're going to have, because we're working with text, we're going to have to do that conversion. So match is pretty straightforward. We know produce here. We know do not include. ISNA is just going to go, well, let's look at this thing, value, F9, NA, 1, NA, 2, 3. Well, it's looking at this list, and then it's just comparing this list. And it's saying if this do not include is in this list, put an NA or put a 1. Everyone else is NA. And then what happens? We're going to look at the array, F9. We're going to go sum products, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Some product says, I don't want to look at NA. Test of a cell is NA. go back. NA is just not applicable. And that's just the way some product is programmed. Go here, F9. We know it's an error, and we intentionally throw an error. Some product, as I said, some product is programmed to turn NAs into zeros. That's why we have this double unary. Over here on your right, you know the drill. You can summarize this. You can use other tools. I don't want to go through all of this. We have a lot to cover here. Practice. Just practice, practice, practice. There's no F9 associated with this. All right, let's look at this thing. We have this NA. We have a do not include. We're going to put a number by them, and then everything else is going to be an NA. Let's look at this thing. Array, F9. If we go here to match value, F9, we have is NA, is NA. Is NA is going to do this. We're going to convert those over to, you know the drill here, F9. Anything that has NA is 0. Otherwise, the NAs are 1, and that's what we want. Interesting conversion, isn't it? Because NAs are typically frowned upon, and we generally just throw a 0, or we want to ignore NA. Well, that's the learning lesson here. The double negatives turn those into 1. It's behind the scene kind of deal. And we're so used to recognizing NAs as not of value. Well, that's what generates the correct answer here. Now, you can use COUNTIF. It doesn't work very well. If you have a number of items that you don't want to count, you can use the COUNTIF as COUNTIFs. You can see the problem here. You're going to have to go in and manually change this if this is no longer Radish or Rhubarb. Or you could identify them individually into quasi filters, identify it that way, and point to this. Probably can point to this anyway. In other words, you put the cell reference instead of Radish, you can put the cell reference there, but you're going to have to do some manipulation there because we're still going to have this not equal. Remember, we have this less than and greater than. We're still going to have to mess around with the quotes because we're including this operator. You can mess around. Other than that, we have this count A, and we can mess around with this also. Counting all values and subtracting matches is another way to count cells that do not meet any of the number criteria. Here's the formula. Here, count A returns the number of cells that are not empty. If we, by chance, we had empty cells, we could also include this count A. Play around. Notice we're not using match. We're going to use the COUNTIF and some other. A lot of versatility, so just keep that in mind. Is NA. Look at the output. Is NA, we want to throw out is NA. What does NA generate? Let's look here. F9. NA. We want to find is NA. And is NA good or bad? Let's look at this thing. Be sure to check out our extensive courses, which include Excel data and text manipulation for advanced users, beginners, intermediate. We also have this great essentials, the A to Z for advanced users, the comprehensive beginner level 1 and 2. Then we have our advanced formulas, strictly formulas, great set of courses, which we have a beginner level 1 and beginner level 2, this intermediate level, and we have this advanced level. Click on any of the links. There's a short video that explains everything about the course. Check it out. Our objective here with ISNA is to find cells that are not available. We're looking at this do not include. Our goal here is find those in NA and put a number by it. So here we have F9. Our goal here is not to include those in our count. That's where the double unary comes into play. It's going to convert, and this is the magic we have no control over. This is just the programming function that is going to convert the NAs. This is what we want, as opposed to the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s. The strength of this unary is converting these 1s and 2s and 3s into zeros. And then it converts the NAs into 1s. Here's the array, F9. Pretty amazing, yeah? There's a lot of things I frown on in regards to Excel, but this is one of those things that I applaud because this is pretty neat. So anyway, all we're going to do is Sum product. Well, we're just going to sum those up. What are we going to multiply those by? Well, we did. Again, that's behind the scene, and we just add these up, and the answer is 8. Do we have other tools? Oh, yeah, we always have other tools. Hit escape. Over here, we can use count if. If you have a number of items that you don't want to count, you can use this count ifs. Right now, be careful here. This is hard-coded, and you know if there's going to be changes, you know the exercise there. You can also use subtract, counting all values and subtracting matches. Subtracting matches is another way to count cells that do not meet any of a number of criteria. Here's the formula. Count A, produce 14, minus sum product, count if, produce 14, do not include. Here, count A returns the number of cells that are not empty, not empty. The count if function, when given the do not include 14 name range, will return 3 counts, 1 for each item in the list. Sum product adds up the total, then subtracts this number from the count of all non-empty cells. The final result is the number of cells that do not match the do not include criteria. I didn't include that. That's a homework assignment. Play around with that and see why it works or doesn't work. Brad Williams, Excel Prime.